We're back with another tier list video for DC Dark Legion. I've got the November 2025 tier list prepared for you all, and I want to take a few minutes to go through all of the champions. Just want to say it was a pretty tumultuous end to October, and I am hoping that we're in for a much better November in DC Dark Legion. There seems to be a few more events coming to us that hopefully will be implemented much better. And I'm really excited to kind of start over with a fresh slate for this month with this tier list. You'll notice some cosmetic changes. I've been trying to go through and fine tune and make these graphics look a little bit better, more presentable, and just trying to come up with a more clean solution for the character cards and that sort of thing. So you'll see that there. A couple of other things, though, that I want to point out before we go into a discussion of all the champions. The first thing, you'll see that there are 3 champions unranked for this tier list. We've got, of course, 2 of our Amazon's champions that have been part of the Halloween event. And then we also have Nurse Harley, who is unfortunately part of the new VIP system that they put in place. So you're going to have, I mentioned this on another video, but you have Green Lantern, who's going to be kind of the early VIP champion. You're going to get to around VIP 15 or 16, and then you'll no longer accumulate shards as part of the VIP system. You'll actually have to buy packs to unlock the remaining shards. Now, good news there is that he becomes slightly less pay to win, because you technically can, over time, over a very long time, you'll be able to earn Green Lantern shards without having to spend money on the game. You'll do that by just logging in, checking into the VIP system. Over time, you're going to get a combo, which will give you better login rewards for the VIP system each time that you log in consecutively. And on top of that, you can spend some gems to get access to the VIP system and add additional levels to it as well. Obviously, not something that I would recommend for any normal free-to-play or light spender players. Maybe min-maxers, it might make a little bit of sense for you to do that. But I just want to point out, you've got Green Lantern as kind of the beginning part of that VIP system. And then for heavy spenders, you'll be able to unlock Nurse Harley. Now, you guys have probably been following along with my account journey. I have been spending a decent amount here and there, try to be selective with the champions that I go after and make sure that I'm building out the teams that are going to put my account in the best footing. And obviously, Nurse Harley is a champion that I would love to have for my account. She's seems to be incredible for Arkham's Most Wanted, but I only have at VIP 16 access to about 40 of her shards as part of that system. Nevertheless, Nurse Harley and also Death Metal Wonder Woman are part of the overall champion structure of this game. They are playable champions that you can get your hands on. And so we have to rank all champions in the game as part of this single individual champion tier list that I've been doing. So I am going to be including them going forward. I mentioned on a podcast episode with Unstable, I'm not sure that he's put that out yet, but I'll say it here as well. I am looking at a way to include these VIP pay-to-win champions as part of the tier rankings without kind of, I would say, muddying the waters with the rest of the tier list, because it does make it kind of difficult to for people who aren't spending on the game. You might get a little bit confused, even though I have the money or dollar sign designation on these champions. So I'll probably end up putting them over to the side in their own category or something similar to that. I haven't decided yet. We will be ranking these champions, Nurse Harley and Death Metal Wonder Woman, as part of the December tier list in about a month. So be on the lookout for that. And I'll talk a little bit about them later on in the video so that you can get a little bit of an idea of where I think that they're going to be headed. And you can probably guess where they want their pay-to-win champions to be. but we can again talk a little bit more about that when the time comes. For the first time in quite a while, the rankings are basically going unchanged. We did rank Swamp Thing for the first time, so we'll talk about his ranking, but I think it might be a good opportunity for us to do a little bit of a refresh of the entire tier list in terms of discussing the champions and kind of like why I have certain champions ranked in certain places. So we're going to maybe spend a little bit more time than we normally would on this tier list. I'll go through and probably do a speed run for the lower tiers, but I am going to spend a little bit of time going through all the S tier champions, A plus tier champions, and probably a few of the A and B tier champions. So how about that? We're going to start with S tier, and as always, we'll start with the DPS champions first and work our way over to the healers and supports. And we'll start out with Nightwing. Nightwing continues to be one of the best free to play, accessible win condition champions or hyper carry champions in the game. Obviously, we've talked about the difficulty of building out, you know, a full Bat family or a Teen Titan slash Bat family team, but they continue to add additional Teen Titans tag synergy champions that definitely make building a Nightwing hypercarry much more, I would say, affordable and accessible to non-spenders and light spenders. Champions like Donna, who has been part of this Halloween event, I do think that she's going to offer some additional optionality for those who want to build Nightwing. And until they do any sort of significant nerf to his kit, he just continues to be a menace in Meta Brawl. He also can rack up really nice scores in Combat Cycle, and Nightwing is one of my favorite recommendations for efficient non-spenders who are willing to save for quite a while, because once you do get him into your roster at high levels, like we're talking gold or red star levels, he is going to be really, really good. So Nightwing continues to be an S tier champion. Constantine is a champion that we've been looking at. I've been looking at for trying to figure out whether I want to downrank him to A plus tier. Actually, I don't want to, but it seems like the meta has been kind of pushing for it's been fairly easy to counter Justice League Dark teams until recently. We had Swamp Thing added into the game, and it's really reinvigorated the Justice League Dark roster. I think between that and the changes to Zatanna's kit, definitely made her stronger and have made Constantine a much more viable win condition champion in the game. So he's going to remain in S tier. And there's a lot of Constantine haters out there. A lot of people, some of my friends included, who aren't super high on Constantine, and I get it. Power creep with Supergirl and now with Death Metal Wonder Woman and some of the other champions out there have definitely kind of relegated Constantine to kind of the B team. The secondary level of the meta champions that you want to be using. But I still think that, a well-built Constantine can compete with some of the best rosters out there. So still very high on Constantine. I don't think anyone should regret building Justice League Dark. As a matter of fact, I think that Justice League Dark is the perfect team to be building towards, whether you start out with a Superman heavy team when you first start playing the game or Joker. It doesn't really matter, because every path converges to a free-to-play Justice League Dark team that can be built into a much more formidable Justice League Dark when you replace Wonder Woman with Swamp Thing. So Constantine, still an S tier champion. Love the guy, and I can't wait for his rerun on the soft launch servers. And Sinestro is a champion that I have always thought very highly of, and considered him to be an S tier champion. But to be honest with you, until I was able to invest a few additional stars in him, I think I have him at around 2 purple. I'll switch over and just double check on that. Yes, we got him actually at 3 purple stars. Until I got Sinestro a little bit higher and started trying to put a little bit of investment into my Legion of Doom team, I didn't have like a full respect for how good Sinestro was. And he really, in my opinion, is more of the win condition for Legion of Doom teams than Deathstroke is. So many people out there are just obsessed with Deathstroke and think that he is kind of like the driving force behind Legion of Doom. It turns out that the most important players in that team are actually Sinestro and Lex. Obviously Deathstroke does play a part and he is important. Like, you definitely want to be building him as part of that team. But I personally think that Sinestro is a much more flexible champion. He's, kind of the reason why Legion of Doom can be so successful in PvP, in my opinion. And he also slots into hybrid Justice League Dark team that I love. He can also slot into an Arkham Legion of Doom lineup that, can be fairly good for as like a bridge team for people who are more light spenders or really non-spenders who don't listen to advice not to invest in Legion of Doom, that just have to have it. You can kind of bridge that gap. So Sinestro, incredible S tier champion, and I think he's going to continue to stay there. It's going to take a little bit more power creep, maybe a handful more champions being introduced to the game, and for that matter, win condition champions before he's going to be pushed out. It's probably going to take Gorilla Grodd being a win condition type champion for Legion of Doom, assuming he's the next LOD champion that comes out, before Sinestro we even consider pulling him out of S tier, or at least the very least A plus tier. I know we're starting to crowd out these top tiers, and in my opinion, the top tiers should be for the cream of the crop. So we got to be careful, but I think we're in a decent place right now. So Sinestro, big S tier champion. Moving into the Warriors and Guardians, let's talk about Supergirl. Obviously, this is another champion that I am personally a big fan of, and I heavily invested in her for my account. I have her at 1 yellow star. I've also been pushing her gear, trying to transmute it, and I have her legacy piece at, I think, 5 white stars now. So incredible win condition champion for Superman family, and she works incredibly well in both PvP and combat cycle. She also helps me out a lot in training sim and some of the other game modes too. And again, kind of that power creep I was talking about with Constantine. She, in my opinion, is the best AoE champion in the game. We can talk about Joker in terms of damage over time that kind of acts as an AoE as well, but Supergirl is just an incredible champion. And, we talked about the reason why she's not exactly a free to play champion, though, because she must have crypto in whatever roster you put her into. And it's a little bit of a limiting effect. She also really thrives on having Superboy in the roster as well. So they've kind of forced you to build Superman family to make Supergirl a viable champion. You can get away without having to run Superman, but so obviously I've mentioned this on some of the other videos that I've made surrounding Supergirl. There's been some controversies out there with people saying that Supergirl should be at B tier or A tier because she requires so much investment, but that's really not the way I do my rankings for champions. I try to rank each individual champion based on their full capabilities, and I try to give you advice on, what you might have to do to get that individual champion to its highest capability. So, like, there's always going to be that interplay with, having to build out teams to make these champions work. But again, Supergirl definitely still an S tier champion. That opinion's not going to change for quite some time, I don't think. So Queen Hippolyta is a champion that has obviously I've made a lot of videos about her. I'm actually going to be putting out a Will or Skip video probably sometime later this week, because I know a lot of people have her in the bleed right now and might be curious if they haven't already watched the plethora of information out there on Queen Hippolyta in the last few weeks. So I'll be on the lookout for that one. I'll be putting it out soon. But suffice it to say that Queen Hippolyta is an incredible plug and play champion that really fits into any roster because of the way her kit works. She is going to be providing a ton of damage absorption on her ultimate. She's going to be providing shields to the entire team, and it just really powerful, impactful champion in meta brawl. She's not quite as good in combat cycle because you don't really need that much protection. Maybe a little bit more since they nerfed the Starfire Starbolts. We could get into that at some point in this video or another one in the future. But she is much more impactful in meta brawl. But because she's so strong for meta brawl, PvP, ship combat, whatever you want to call it, she pretty much is an auto include into the S tier category. And again, another champion that I don't see moving anytime soon. She's made even better by the fact that Death Metal Wonder Woman is in the game, because anyone who has access to Death Metal Wonder Woman and the Amazons, you pretty much have to have Queen Hippolyta in your lineup if you want to see the best results with that team. Superman is the champion that has been a little bit, I don't want to say enigma, but he's definitely been a champion that we've looked at moving down in the ranks multiple times. And I'm really close to that point at this time because of the addition of so many good characters into the game. I think if we get any closer to if we get any more single target damage dealers who are like true win conditions that have any sort of power creep, I think we're going to have to push Superman down a peg to a plus tier. But I still think he's, even at that level, he's going to be a huge recommendation for people who are just starting out in the game, who are willing to invest in him. We've talked about that before on the channel, and I probably should circle back and start doing some Whale or Skip updates on some of the champions that I've already covered before. He might be the first candidate for that, but he's a champion that once you get to the purple stars or higher and you get his legacy piece, he's going to be doing a lot of work for you, especially if you can put him into a hyper carry team. If you're using Flash, Aquaman, you probably won't have Green Lantern if you're a non-spender, but Mira, who now has the Justice League tag. There's a lot of options for doing a hyper carry Superman team. Cyborg fits into that as well. But still an incredible champion for pushing through training simulator levels, through Anti-Crime Network. He's going to get you through the story mode pretty handily. Even the Dark Portal, which has been a little bit of a roadblock for some players now that they've added that in. Things like that, Superman's going to work really well for. But again, he's also going to be a really good PvP champion because of that single target damage. Even though you can't control your roster, he will attack and take out the frontline champions fairly quickly and allow you to get to those backline supporters and damage dealers a little bit quicker. So I still think that he's kind of borderline on the S tier, A plus tier border, and we'll be revisiting that in a month depending on what champions come into the game. We know Riddler is on the way, and we're going to continue to check the interplay with these new Amazons champions and Nurse Harley and try to figure all of that out. So, be on the lookout for any potential changes here for Superman. But as of right now, still including him in S tier. We talked about Green Lantern a little bit at the beginning of the video. Obviously still a fairly paywalled champion, a little bit more free to play accessible now. But even if you can get him free to play, it's only going to be at probably white stars. Potentially low blue stars if you've been grinding the game for quite a few months, and you might be at VIP 6, 7, 8, something like that. But Green Lantern is an incredible healer. I still think that he is the best healer in the game. Maybe that's going to change if we get another healer anytime soon. but for right now, still solidified as the best healer possible, especially if you're running a Justice League lineup. But I've seen him get used with all sorts of different lineups in the game. I think I've heard people saying that they're looking at maybe using him with their Amazons, and I know he gets used with other team comps in 3v3 lineups. So, again, not much to say that I haven't already covered on Green Lantern, but really great healer and still S tier for me. Superboy is our next champion on the agenda, and he's a champion that we brought up into the S tier ranks the last time we did the tier list, I believe, and I for good reason because he has just been I think a godsend for pretty much any player who has invested anything into him. He works even at 5 white stars for your lineup because of the way he's able to add additional attack to your other champions. So, a nice thing about support champions in this game is you don't need them to do a ton of damage. You just need them to make your win condition better. And Superboy is able to do that. You can use him pretty much in any roster. It doesn't really matter what lineup you throw him into. He's going to provide a lot of usefulness, especially if you have his guitar, his unique legacy piece. So can't say enough about Superboy. He continues to be an S tier champion. We talked about him being kind of borderline now with Zatanna being kind of back in the mix as one of the better supporters for, hyper are granting a lot more attack. But we're going to continue to keep him at S tier for at least the foreseeable future, and we'll maybe revisit it next time. And then rounding out our S tier ranks, Starfire is a really, really good healer for your Teen Titans lineups. She also has that Outsiders tag synergy. Really looking forward to exploring that once we get some more Outsiders into the game. I'm confident that we're going to be seeing some Outsiders, if not by the end of this year. Hopefully in the first quarter of 2026, they're going to roll a couple more of those out so that we can build out a full team. And I think that it's going to make her an even more powerful healer when she has, some more tag synergy teammates to heal up. But really, really good to use with your Martian Manhunters out there. If you do and have a Martian Manhunter invested fairly well. Unfortunately, Arsenal is terrible, so that whole Outsiders tag synergy doesn't work too well. But because of that Teen Titans synergy, she slots in really well to Nightwing hypercarry teams, and I really love the interaction that she has there. She also, those shields, or basically the way she heals is like she grants everybody a shield that heals over time. And it's, a really cool interaction. It's a great way to heal your team over time, and it works very effectively. So Starfire is a little bit more of an accessible champion than Green Lantern. I would say she's, maybe tied with Crypto as the second best healer in the game. If Crypto was able to heal a little bit more effectively in Meta Brawl and he was able to take his turn faster, Starfire, in my opinion, would probably be relegated to A+ tier. Kind of go back and forth on whether to flip that switch again, but not quite there yet. Again, Starfire, S tier champion. 100% recommend that you try to get her if you're going after Nightwing. And even if you're not, I think non-spenders have to think pretty hard about whether they want to go after Starfire, because if you already have a win condition in your roster, it might be worth trying to go after her. But for the most part, she kind of gets relegated to that Nightwing comp, which makes it a little bit easier to skip her if you need to focus on other things. We are going to try to speed run the A+ tier champions and the A tier champions, just kind of give you maybe a little snippet about each one as we switch through them, so that I'm not rambling on for an entire hour in this video. But I do, again, want to try to cover each of these higher tier champions so you have a little bit better of an idea of where I think they stand now versus, the last time that I did this, which has been quite a few months ago. And we'll start with Deathstroke, champion that has been quite contentious in the community for several months now. A lot of people saying that he is much better at lower stars than we give him credit for. And I will say that he does become a little bit more viable at purple stars. I still have, better teams that I can use. So I'm not using Deathstroke or really investing too much into him. But I can tell you that in like lower level 3v3, like as my third team, and also in some other game modes, I have enjoyed playing Deathstroke, and I still stand by my A plus rating. And I think that in PvP, he definitely gets that S tier designation. So we're going to continue to leave that icon on Deathstroke here. A plus, borderline S, depending on where you're using him. Great single target damage dealer. Scarecrow is a champion that, again, I've been toying with the idea of moving him into S tier. I am pretty sure that, that could happen fairly soon, just given the fact that they continue to buff his kit and Joker's kit, and just the interactions that he has with Arkham's Most Wanted now, in addition to his spot in Legion of Doom, and also just the fact that you can use him on a Justice League Dark team if you want to go hybrid from that standpoint, and just really an incredible tank. He can stay alive. He has a really nice stun that he can do with his ultimate. So really kind of a do-it-all tank for your roster, and someone that you really want to be building around, depending on kind of like what you want your top 10 champions to be in your roster long term. Curious what his interactions are with Nurse Harley once we have a little bit more testing around her. Obviously, that's only going to apply for whales, and so there's only going to be a few hundred Nurse Harleys floating around in the community. I don't want to focus too much on team comps for that, but if she makes Scarecrow a better champion, then we're going to have to take that in consideration with our ranks. So Scarecrow, A plus tier champion. Super excited about how he's become a much better champion in the game. Now we've got Swamp Thing, who is debuting in the tier list at A plus tier. I considered whether he would make sense in S tier, and I just don't quite think that he rises to that level. I do think Swamp Thing is making Justice League Dark much better in PvP and Meta Brawl and 3v3 as well. I just don't know that he is worth the investment from a combat cycle perspective to the point where he becomes an S tier champion. This is a champion who is able to do a decent amount of damage reduction. Like, he can basically reduce the damage taken by your champions, and he kind of like puts down a swamp, and it's going to prevent a decent amount of damage from the enemy. He's also going to be doing spiritual damage, and he can do some energy drain as well. So he's going to be preventing a team like Legion of Doom from getting a massive amount of energy at the very beginning of a match and just nuking your team. And that's really important. You have to keep Constantine alive so that he can do a couple of ultimates and give you a chance to win. So Swamp Thing is what allows you to do that. Wonder Woman is great for Justice League Dark. She's able to provide a stun, which does help a little bit. But Swamp Thing's kit, I think, takes it to a whole new level, especially if you're able to get his unique legacy weapon. That's a theme with a lot of these newer champions that are coming out in the bleed. You might not necessarily have to have their unique legacy weapon, but if you want their kit to do what it really should do, you have to get that legacy weapon and start trying to build it out. And I think that is the case for Swamp Thing, but really good champion, A plus tier, and certainly worth going out and getting if you want to build Justice League Dark. Not really a champion that you can slot into other teams, so you have to be careful about that. He's definitely, again, I have this designation must build for their team. Definitely applies for Swamp Thing here. And then moving to another Justice League Dark champion, we have Dr. Fate. But in this case, Dr. Fate he's definitely must build for a Justice League Dark lineup, but he's also a champion that for non-spenders slots in really well very early on. You don't even need any stars on him whatsoever for his kit to work, because you just need that ultimate to grant shields to your team. Really helpful for pushing those early training sim levels and keeping your team alive in the lower ranks of Meta Brawl. Not super helpful in combat cycle, depending on the boss, but certainly an incredible champion nonetheless. And I still think that he is solidly entrenched in A plus tier, unless they continue to roll out more guardians and warriors that are power creeping him down. But I think for right now, still an A plus tier champion. Really love Dr. Fate. Moving right along, we have Crypto. I've spoken way too many times about why I think he is A plus tier instead of S tier. One of the best healers in the game. His kit is really interesting. He's amazing with Superman family, but he also works with a lot of other teams as well. That stun for Meta Brawl is supposed to be really good. If he would just do his ultimate at the beginning of battles, it would be a lot better. And that's why he's an A plus tier. But definitely a great non-spender or light spender champion to go after, especially if you can get him in the daily deals, depending on where your server is in kind of the bleed calendar, I suppose. But Crypto, really great A plus tier hero, and a must build if you're going Superman family, and probably still a must build depending on what else you're going after if you get lucky and get a few pulls of him early on in your account. Joker is a champion that I really regret not building initially. I just didn't really understand. A lot of us in the soft launch servers didn't understand that he was going to become what he is now. He's seen several buffs since we had an opportunity to pull him. At the time, I couldn't spend at all because the global launch hadn't even happened for the game. Most of you guys probably didn't even know the game existed. But with changes to his kit, the way his poison mechanic works now, and just a lot of the interactions that he can do, he is, if not the best combat cycle champion, he's top 3 or top 4, and just excels against pretty much every combat cycle boss that's in the game right now. He's also going to do fairly well in Training Simulator and other modes. Not quite that great in Meta Brawl, but I've heard people saying that he actually is a lot better than he used to be because of some of the kit changes that they've made. So I'm really excited to hear that. And I've been thinking about whether maybe he deserves to be pushed back up into S tier. We've had him there before. I almost feel like if you're wherever you're gonna put Superman, you should probably put Joker, because they are kind of on that same power threshold in terms of what they can do. They obviously have different kits, but they kind of do. They provide some of the same things for like a starter roster, I suppose. Just one of them is a little bit more PvP heavy, one of them is a little bit more PvE heavy. Either way, Joker is A plus tier champion. He's a must build if you're going to go Arkham. He's a must build if you want high CC scores, unless you're able to put together a decent Superman family team. Or unless you have a really, really well invested Nightwing. We talk about Flash on the channel a lot. Not much to say here other than he's a really great champion to invest in for non-spenders and light spenders, because he's going to accentuate your win condition by cycling their ult as many times as possible. Incredible champion for combat cycle and Training Simulator. Any PvP, or excuse me, any PvE mode Flash is going to excel in. He can be used in Meta Brawl, not quite as efficient there. You have to make sure that you know who your highest attack champion is, and then you can use him there, just because it is an auto mode only. But Flash is still continues to be one of my favorite A plus tier champions. He's another one that I was not super high on early on, and I have seen the error of my ways because wow, Flash is just really, really good, even at very low star levels. And the last A plus tier champion I want to talk about for a second, I've already mentioned her, Zatanna. She's seen pretty much a full kit rework, and she is able to do a massive amount more damage than she was before. Some interesting interactions and something worth pointing out that makes her a solid A plus tier champion. She's able to summon a like a I guess a mirror image of herself. She was able to do that before, but now the first one that she summons at the start of battle has like 300% of her attack stat. And it means that if you're going up against Legion of Doom, almost every time the Deathstroke is going to focus that mirror image that she creates rather than going for Constantine right off the bat. So it actually buys you a little bit of time. And if you also have Swamp Thing, it means that you're probably going to give yourself a chance for Constantine's ult to go off twice rather than once, and that could, in a lot of cases, mean that you win the battle. So Zatanna becomes a much better support with Justice League Dark, but also she's seeing a lot of play in other teams now because she's able to not just bolster the attack of your Justice League Dark team, but also other teams. We've seen Zatanna work incredibly well with Joker in Combat Cycle, and I'm curious to see some of the other comps that people are able to come up with for Zatanna now that she's, I think, a much more meta champion now that she had her kit rework. So that's the last of the A plus tier champions that are worth covering. As far as A tier goes, these are champions that are going to be meta relevant champions, and these are going to fall in and out of favor, depending on what the meta looks like. The new champions that are coming in probably will end up seeing a champion like Donna Troy, Wonder Girl here, either here or in the B tier, depending on kind of how the meta shakes out over the next few weeks. Looking at moving a couple of these other champions up or down, probably more down than anything. But you got Ra's al Ghul, Lex, Robin. These are all champions that slot in really well as, if not win conditions for a non-spender team. Great supports or even win conditions for spenders as well. Really good champions that require a team to be built around them to be efficient. Robin, you pretty much have to build Bat Family, and he's kind of like the Nightwing point 0.5 edition. Lex, you have to build out your Legion of Doom, but once you do, he's incredibly good. Raish, we still don't know a ton about him. I mean, obviously, we have done plenty of testing, but he just doesn't really slot into a lot. And also, a lot of you guys don't have access to him yet. So more to come on those champions or on Raish in particular. You got Martian Manhunter and Wonder Woman over here in A tier for the Guardian and Warrior section. We talked about why we dropped Martian Manhunter down to A tier before. We really just need to see more Outsiders champions for him to be a little bit more meta relevant. The reason why he's meta relevant now is because he can shut down Constantine, and he can also shut down other AoE style teams. So he's really like there as kind of a niche meta pick. But he also offers a lot of upside as just like basically a tank for a Justice League team as well. So definitely worth including here. And then you got Wonder Woman, who she's probably not quite A tier at her legendary level, but if you can ascend her to Mythic, she definitely has a place in the meta for newer servers and people who don't have access to some of the those S and A plus tier champions. Champions like Swamp Thing for Justice League Dark, for example. We'll see whether she becomes more important for Amazon's teams. I don't think she does. She's really just kind of a warm body for that setup, but still, I think A is a solid place for her. And then we have our healers and supports. Ivy and Raven are both incredibly good healers that really just kind of fit into their team. Raven, for the most part, only works with Justice League Dark super well anyway. And then Ivy, same thing. She only really works for an Arkham's Most Wanted team, but they are still meta relevant because those teams work in a lot of game modes. And then we have Batgirl rounding out the A tier champions, and she is one of the better supports because she works so well with Nightwing. But we're seeing a lot of uses for her to kind of like ramp up crit rate for any champion for that matter. And so I think she is going to continue to be A tier for quite a while as well. These support champions, they just, if they can be used outside of their main team, they're going to be higher tier ranking even with power creep because of the way they work. And you can see everything that I have for B tier, C tier, and D tier. Those B tier picks are going to be roster dependent. Some of them are incredible champions, but you have to have a specific reason for why you're building them. And so, you can see like there are more champions in the B tier than any of the other tiers. I'm not saying that a B tier champion is bad. I've mentioned this before. It's really just their usefulness depends on how the rest of your team is built out. Those C tier picks are definitely more niche picks. They're going to help you out a lot when you first start playing the game. Several of these are legendary champions. You got Harley, who's given to you at the very beginning of the game. You got Supergirl, you've got Stargirl, who can help out a lot against the Drowned and combat cycle. And then we have D tier picks that are really just bad. They just don't work for their intended purpose. Hopefully, some of these are going to actually work down the road. Maybe we get some kit reworks, or maybe we get just some new champions that actually make their kits relevant to the game. I'd love to see Black Canary work. It's just that she doesn't in the current meta. For example, Deadshot, you would love to see him work. Arsenal, a lot of us that invested heavily in Arsenal thinking he was going to be either a win condition style champion or at the very least help Martian Manhunter be a win condition champion. Quite disappointed, and we're hoping that changes. But so far it's been a bit of a letdown. So that's going to do it for this tier list video. Definitely a longer one than normal, so I appreciate your patience here, but I know a lot of people do enjoy having the nuance of me going through this as kind of a companion to just the regular tier list infographic that's going to be out there. Obviously, if you would like to have access to this tier list for quick reference on your phone or on your PC, I do post this on my Discord. There's a link in the description of the video for that, as well as the official Discord for the game. In the Guru Guides section, you should be able to find this tier list. If not, at the time that this video releases, it should be within a few days of posting it. I will try to get this tier list out there for you all to reference. And I hope that it continues to be a solid reference for people to build out these individual champions. Again, I mentioned that I'll be focusing more going forward on my kind of like team tier list, team building tier list that I've been putting out the last couple of months. And I think that's going to be probably the more helpful guide for you, that coupled with the bleed strategy guide. But I do think that all of these tier lists and rankings kind of culminate into that bleed strategy guide. And so they're all worth it for you guys to see. So thanks again for watching the video. If you haven't already, would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel. It does help with the algorithm. And you'll also get notified anytime I put out new DC Dark Legion content. If you don't want to subscribe, that's perfectly fine. I still hope to see you on the next video.